Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland. With me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and happy Wednesday. Today, we are talking all about childcare and entertainment for kids at the wedding, because you guys have been asking. We've had so many questions on Instagram from people with loads of things that they're trying to navigate when it comes to children in weddings. And we're going to get into your questions in a moment. But first, if you missed last week's episode, we spoke about the 8 things not to forget when you're planning your wedding. And so, of course, you're going to be making tons and tons of wedding decisions, and you're going to have loads of checklists and things you need to do, and you're bound to forget something, right? So I basically gave you a little checklist of 8 things that people commonly forget. So if you missed that episode, don't forget to go and catch up. That's episode 17. It's from last week. But let's get stuck in. So today we're talking all about childcare, entertainment for kids, pretty much anything to do with having kids at your wedding, whether those are your children or your guests' children. There's so many things to think about when it comes to looking after them, entertaining them. How much should you be doing? What can you do? Can you make it special? All of those things, you ask the questions, we're going to answer them today, and I've got some experts who are going to pop in and give their expert advice as well. So the first question, Lucy, Deirdre, and Claire all said, how much should the couple arrange, like babysitters and that sort of thing? So I guess what we're saying here is, as the couple, how much of the childcare is your responsibility and how much should you let the parents think about? But then when you do organize childcare, how many babysitters do you need? What is the appropriate ratio from nannies and babysitters to the children? And how do you navigate all of that? So I spoke with Aisling Ross from The Wedding Nanny. She's an expert when it comes to all things childcare and entertainment at weddings. And let's have a listen to see what she has to say, because she's got some expert advice on this topic specifically.
So the couple should focus first of all on their own child or children. I know this sounds selfish, but it is important that their children are cared for on the big special day. They're going to be busy themselves. A lot of couples kind of come to us and say, do you know what? We actually feel really guilty that we have them with the children all day. We're so glad we have someone like you looking after them, making sure they're having fun, making sure they're playing, but also making sure that they're fed, they're clean, and all the rest of it. Now, our nannies would typically look after 3 children at a time. If the children are a little bit younger, that would be reduced down to 1 or 2, just depending on the age. But if the couples are worried that there will be other children running through their drinks reception, it could be an idea to book a second or third nanny, especially for the younger children. Now, they could do this in a way of leaving it open to the parents and adding a line at the end of the invitations that they could say something along the lines of, your children are more than welcome to join the party and the celebrations. We will have a nanny on site for our children. If you'd like the details, we can send them on to you. That way it kind of lifts the responsibility off the parents and it lifts the responsibility off the couple, I should say, and onto the parents and the guests of these children. So I hope that helps.
Well, thank you, Aisling. That is really, really helpful. So if you missed that question, it was how much should the couple arrange, and then how many babysitters do you need? So thank you very much, Aisling. That was Aisling from The Wedding Nanny, and she is going to pop in a moment with some more ideas and creative things you can do. But let's get on to the next question. So Sinead and Maria asked, do you advise a kids table, or should the kids sit with their parents? So it's a nuanced answer to this question because it depends on a number of factors. So firstly, how young are the children? So if the children are young, so we're talking 2 years old and younger, and they're a little more on the needy side of things, I recommend that you seat them with their parents. So this is, any children who might fall asleep at some point during the meal, or who need their parents to help feed them for whatever reason. Seat them with the parents. It'll just make things flow so much better. It'll be a lot easier for the parents to care for their children if they're with them. But for older children who are a little bit more independent, you could seat them at their own table. And my advice is that if you are going to do this, think about two things. The first thing is the placement of where the kids' table is. So if you are a parent and your young children are sitting with other children but on the other side of the room, you're probably going to feel quite anxious the whole night, just trying to look out and see how they're doing. So my advice is to keep the kids' table as close to their parents as possible so that the parents can at least have an eye on their children throughout the wedding, throughout the meal, so that while the parents are having a drink and they're hanging out with their friends, they can just glance over and check that the kids are still there, they're still okay, and that everything is going well. The second thing you want to think about is, what will the children do? And so there will be more on this in a moment, but whatever you have at this table, if you can, provide something that's a little bit kid-friendly just to help them to feel like there's something very special for them to do during the adult things. So for example, during the speeches, the children might get bored and they might feel like they don't know what to do with themselves. But if they've got stickers or a coloring book or bubbles or something to keep them going, they'll feel a lot more entertained, and there'll be something that's specifically kid-friendly just for them to feel really welcome and at home. But speaking of this type of thing, we had a question from Ruth, Rebecca, and Lucy, and a number of others asking for ideas on how to entertain the kids and how to look after them really, really well. And so again, I spoke with Aisling from The Wedding Nanny, because this is what she does. Her company is all about taking care of the kids, but not just looking after them, but actually entertaining them and making sure that they have an amazing time. So if that's you and you want to know more about how you can entertain your little guests at your wedding, why don't you take a listen? Let's see what Aisling has to say.
So entertaining the children on the day is probably the most important thing to us as nannies. We will bring a suitcase full of toys, games and activities to suit the particular child or children we have in our care. All of our toys are age appropriate, and we have a discussion with the parents before the day to personalise the suitcase. Lots of parents give their children a little gift on the morning of the wedding or throughout the wedding day. A top tip of ours would be to include bubbles or stickers as part of this gift. They provide so much entertainment on the day, and the bubbles can also be a great prop for photos too. We also try and arrange a scavenger hunt depending on the weather and venue, of course. It really is up to what the children want to do on the day. It is their big day and their big celebration as well.
Okay, I don't know about you, but when I listened to that, I thought, I wish that I went to a wedding as a child where somebody had that kind of entertainment for me, because that sounds like so much fun. So of course, if your little guests are a priority for you, then including some kind of entertainment is, of course, the best thing that you can do to help them to feel like the wedding is for them as well. We did get another question from Noreen asking, how can we involve our kids in the ceremony? Great question, and I'm going to rattle off a list of different things you can do. And of course, these will be dependent on how many children you have, how old they are, how confident they feel, and, some of the other dynamics such as, are you getting remarried and, your children are watching this remarriage happen? Are there children on both sides? There's a lot to think about. And so pick the ideas that feel best for you and your family scenario and what really feels like it's going to be a good fit for the celebration that you want to have on your big day. So, a couple of things. You could have your kids involved as the flower girl or the page boy. They can have on cute outfits. We've seen loads of photos of kids holding cute little signs, saying like daddy, mummy's on her way, like those types of things. It's really cute and everybody loves seeing it. Another thing you could do is you could have your children walk down the aisle. So either as the flower girl or page boy, they could walk in individually, they could walk in together. They could walk in with an adult helping them, or depending on your situation, you could have your children walk you down the aisle. How special would that be? Now, with older children, especially those who are in the teen or preteen years, sometimes they can feel a little bit awkward doing things that for us feel really natural. So things like asking your teenage daughter to be a bridesmaid. She might be awkward or she may be completely honored and flattered and really excited. So I think involving your older children is something that needs to be decided by you based on what you know and based on their comfort levels. So I recommend opening that conversation and just saying, I'd love to involve you. I'd love to have you by my side. What do you feel comfortable doing? And just see what they want to do. If you aren't sure of some different things that they could do, perhaps having them be a bridesmaid or a member of the wedding party doesn't feel like a good fit, you could do things like put them in charge of handing out confetti. They could be there to welcome the guests as they arrive along with other members of the wedding party. Or you could get them to do something really fun, like hand them a disposable camera and put them in charge of taking pictures alongside the photographer at your wedding ceremony, just to get them involved in doing something. Now, for younger children, something as simple as getting them to hold the bouquet or the rings during the ceremony is something that just helps them to feel really included and honored. And it's not a huge thing, if the ring box is secure and it gets dropped, it's not the end of the world. I think some of us have seen some horror videos of, page boys dropping the ring box and the ring falls and it's gone forever. Always secure the ring box. And I think if you have somebody accidentally drop the bouquet, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't feel like it's a huge responsibility, but it is a way to help the younger children feel included and as part of things. Something else you could do in your ceremony is you could mention the children in the ceremony in some way. It could be in the welcome, it could be in your vows, it could be in the prayers. It really helps the children to feel like they're a significant part of the occasion and that the wedding isn't only for the grown-ups, but it's for the whole family together. And this is particularly important when remarriage is happening and there are children on either side, and you want them to feel like this is a momentous occasion for everybody, not just for the couple getting married. And now here's another thing you could do is when you're exchanging rings, you could consider presenting each child with a gift. So now it could be something that's really unique to them and something that they really love, or it could be a ring of their own, it could be a medallion or a special token or something to signify that as a family you are coming together. And you could also consider writing some special vows or promises to the children and factor those into your ceremony. So I recommend talking to your celebrant or your solemnizer to see what's possible, see if they've got any ideas of special readings that you could incorporate into the festivities. And if your older children feel confident, you could even ask them to read something at the ceremony as well. And then finally, when it comes to the ceremony and including the children, think about things like your unity ceremony and if you could get them included. So for example, if you're doing a sand pouring ceremony, the kids could also be part of pouring the sand. Or if you're doing something like a marriage box or a time capsule, you could all put that together as a family. So not just the married couple, but the whole family with all the children involved, you can put that together as a family. Now, we did get a question. This is our final question of the morning, and it's from Lucy, who says, how do I make sure that the kids pose nicely for photos? Great question, because I've seen some very cute photos of kids posing and some very unposed natural photos of kids just having an amazing time at the wedding. And I always think to myself, how on earth did the photographer get the kids to look so good in these pictures? So I spoke to resident expert Timmy Keane from Tim Tim Media, and I asked him the question, how on earth do you get the kids to pose so well for pictures? This is what he had to say. Let's take a listen.
Getting kids to pose nicely in photos can be quite difficult on the day and unpredictable, but it depends on how tired the kid is already. They've already sat through the ceremony maybe and they're quite pent up, so they need some time to just play and just burn off some of that energy. But then, if they're in a picture in a group or just with their parents, like to keep it nice and fun with no forcing them to stare and smile at the camera because they'll make them quite uncomfortable. Get down to their level really helps, I find, because the eye contact just makes them a bit more comfortable when you're not standing over them. Tend to stand a bit back. Then have someone maybe over my shoulder, like saying keywords to them that make them happy and smile that they can associate with. For example, sometimes people sing baby shark or say sausages or things like that. And then I might just have the parents of the group just interact with them, have fun. There's no pressure to stare at the camera. It's all about the best looking moment that feels natural.
That is so helpful. Timmy, thank you so much for that expert advice. I love those ideas of getting the kids to smile by doing funny and fun things behind the camera. I think that's really, really clever. And of course, not putting pressure on them to be smiley and posy the whole time. So thank you so much. Next week's episode is going to be all about weekday weddings, because I'm a firm believer that a weekday wedding is an amazing opportunity to do something a little bit different and to even have some suppliers on your big day that might not be available on the very popular wedding dates. So if you haven't set a date yet and you are totally open to whatever you can get, I recommend listening to that one because it's going to be really helpful in choosing your wedding dates. And if you do go for a weekday wedding, I'm going to share some expert tips on how you can do it really well so that your guests can actually come along. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays at Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. A special shout out to this week's wedding planning experts, Aisling Ross from The Wedding Nanny and Timmy Keane from Tim Tim Media. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.